back on another exciting episode of Starfleet. So hail! I'm still getting
Hello.
used to saying it.
So
It's
hailing
two more
frequencies
syllables.
open. Yeah.
So hailing frequencies open. Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited today. We're a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek, and today we're focused on Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 3, 17 Seconds, directed by Jonathan Frakes. Before we get started, I just want to welcome these wonderful folks who are joining me here on the panel. Thank you for coming on. PJ, Braxton, Ken, and we have a brand new, but not a new friend, someone I've known for a bit now, a brand new member on our show, which is Stan. Hello, Stan.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Good, how
Stan.
are you?
Hello.
Doing well. I'm gonna try and get used to being seen and try not to pick at my nose or anything for the guests.
Dan, I like your
That's
colored
what-
lights in the background, dude.
Oh, thank you. I am not sponsored, but I will suggest Govee.
Wow. Okay.
I really like your neon delta. I saw you putting it together on Twitter and stuff. It's very cool.
Thank you. That's one of their rope lights that has extra bendy capabilities so that you can do your own design.
Oh wow, dude, that's cool. I'm
like
gonna have to
Very,
steal
very
that, dude. Maybe I can like get a blue one or something, dude.
Oh, it
And,
changes colors.
Oh wow.
Oh. Yeah. Oh.
We'll all have that. We'll all
Nice
have the
setting.
same thing. We'll
All
all-
right. Well, here, Alexa, make the bar light blue, please.
Oh, we got to be careful with that because then someone else's Alexa might
And
go
the
off.
exact reason why it isn't computer like it usually is because I watch too much Star Trek and it gets set off all the time.
That's so funny. That is so like you're watching it in Star Trek, a computer, and then it does something.
All the time.
Well, that's very cool. I
Only
just saw it
sent your
turn
house
blue.
into warp speed. So
And welcome to our audience, our live chat audience. How are you guys doing tonight? We have Cake here. We have Benjinium. We've got the Sub Commander decloaking. I did not watch season 1 or season 2, and the first 2 episodes of season 3 didn't do much for me, but I thought this one was good. And it was the first time Picard felt like Picard to me. Wow, that's a high praise. Very nice.
that is a high praise.
Yeah, very cool. Cake says, "Hey folks, I just finished watching. I'll be listening in. Looking forward to your thoughts." And we've got, let's see here. Oh, cool, Jill 47. No fancy screen name, Jill. What was it that I figured like something good like Worf would have said? What is it?
This century. Oh, I am so ready to talk about Worf with Stan.
So Jill says Stewart's acting in the scene with Bev was the best acting I've seen from him this century. Yeah, I agree. So we'll keep going with the chat. But before we get started, since Stan is new, I was wondering, Stan, if you wouldn't mind giving us a brief kind of introduction to who you are and your Star Trek story.
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name's
Thanks for being on.
Stan. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm pretty jazzed to be talking about Star Trek with you all. I've been thinking about what my Star Trek story is, and I honestly can't remember my first introduction. It was definitely 2, 3, 4 years old, somewhere along there. Next Generation, the original movies, and Deep Space Nine. I have a strong memory of my brother and sister and I just begging my dad to let us watch the premiere that went out a little too late for us. And he wasn't going to let us watch the second episode because it was past our bedtime. My brother and sister were not Star Trek fans. They just wanted to stay up later. But all 3 of us finally got him to relent. And he also got hooked by that first episode. And none of my family continued watching, but it ended up being sort of my safe space. I was a bit of a loner as a kid. My brother and sister were 4 and 5 years older than me, so they were sort of like built-in besties, and then I was just the younger one that was always in the way. And so Star Trek just became my escape and a safe space. And then as I started to get older, and I won't bring it down too much, my dad was present, but not really present. And this will get into my thoughts on Worf later, I'm sure. But my father figures were Trek, Riker, and Picard in particular, and then definitely Ben Sisko and seeing what a father could be. So that's my Trek begin story.
That's a really good origin story for your for Star Trek. It'll be really exciting to hear you talk about Worf in this episode then for sure. So we also have a tradition of doing an episode summary. Last time I was told I took too long, so I was wondering if one of you guys might want to take a crack at it. Anyone? Bueller?
On Ken.
Okay. You can, yes. All right, go, PJ.
No, I said Ken.
Oh,
No,
Ken, do
no.
it. Do it, Ken.
Oh,
Ken,
gosh.
do it.
It's such a complex episode. I don't know.
I'll
if
do it. I'm ready to go. It just might be a
Yeah,
little
go.
long.
Yeah. We can all do it.
PJ.
We can all do
Okay,
it.
we can all. Yeah, we'll just like interrupt at any point if I miss something. All right.
Hey,
So,
PJ, you start.
Well,
Yeah.
I have it here in front of me.
Oh,
So it starts with the Titan running from the Shrike, and there is a flashback to 2380 something. I don't know. It's around the time.
it says before they gave us no
before, yeah.
dates, but we could figure it out because I think someone figured out Thad's birth year. So you're
Okay.
you're probably on
Oh,
the
yeah.
mark or close.
yeah, there you go.
But there's this really awkward de-aging kind of scene.
There-
It looks really. It reminded me right away of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. The first time
was
they
way
ever
better
attempted
than that,
de-aging.
but yes.
It was better than that, but for this time now, it's a little like people on YouTube could do a better job, But get past that. There is a point to the scene. It's all about Riker's excitement over his son Thad, who was very sick. He has that silicon-based disease or something.
Right. He was,
And
which could have been cured if the Federation hadn't banned positronic research.
yeah, and they get a call from Deanna, who sounds nothing like the character. It's just like Marina Sirtis all the way. It's just she's not even trying to be that character anymore. I think she kind of abandoned it around First Contact. I think Generations was really the last time she was truly that character, like committed, and then she just became Marina Sirtis as it went on. And she's like, your son's vomiting, projectile vomiting in engineering. And she's like, science should study him, bring the whiskey. Oh, you're having cigars? And she's like, really? Like, whoa, okay. And Riker's like, okay, Mzadi, sorry about that. And he's very excited about his son, and it's very touching. And I didn't know why they were doing this flashback. Like, what's this about? And then he said 17 seconds. So he said when he got the call down to sickbay, his son was being born, I believe. Right.
And it took
And
17
there was a problem.
seconds.
There was a problem, and he didn't like the tone of the message he got. And when he was on the turbo lift, it took 17 seconds to get down to the sickbay level, I suppose. And he said it was like the longest 17 seconds of his life. And then that plays throughout the episode because they're running from the Shrike. The Shrike keeps finding them. Picard's trying to remind Riker because what happens is, first of all, Shaw is taken out. He transfers command to Riker, and then Riker's all about hiding and waiting it out and trying to figure out a way to get out of the nebula and then warp, because they can't warp while they're in the nebula. The sensors are all messed up in the nebula. They literally have crew members, I thought this was very smart, standing by the windows because it's literally the only way you can. So that was pretty cool. So anyway, the Shrike keeps finding them, and Riker's in command, and he wants to cut and hide and escape when possible. And Picard is saying, no, you should consider standing and fighting. And really, Riker's course of action is the logical one, but you see Picard's point as well, and it creates this interesting, dramatic tension between the two, which is so brilliantly done. I couldn't believe it. I was so surprised at how well it worked out, because at one point Picard's like, you're afraid of loss, and Riker's like, you're out of line, mother effer. He doesn't say that, but it's like there's all this dramatic tension there. And besides all that, there's that conversation between Beverly and Picard about, they did it under the waterfall someplace. She got pregnant. Then all of the adventures of Picard were happening post Nemesis. Like it could have been a whole series. Like this could be an animated series. What she described alone in that time period. But there's a bit of confusion there because she talks about Romulan refugees, and I believe the supernova happened in like 2287. So did she not tell Picard because he was kidnapped for 9 days? And did she leave right after that or before that? I'm not sure. And when she says about the refugees, well, Jack would have been, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 or something like that at that time. So the timing's weird. Like I don't understand.
She
That aspect
had
of it.
after Nemesis, she had a like a kind of a vacation holiday with Jean-Luc, got pregnant, and then ghosted him after that. So she was just saying that every time she thought of contacting
Of
him,
going back,
ano-
yeah, okay.
right,
Yeah.
another crazy thing happened, and then she was like, "Okay, no, I'm not going to do it."
And they give these actors some juicy stuff to work, like you can just feel the actors loving what they're doing. And I haven't even gotten into Worf yet. And then we get the whole storyline with Worf and Raffi. So they reuse the same shot from the previous episode, just like in revert. Like they do it one way and then they pan the other way. It's literally the same shot. I think it's okay. They're saving money. You know,
Yeah,
need
you
to
gotta do
save
it.
money.
And it's not like that. We haven't seen that in everything, right? Almost.
So Raffi wakes up on La Serena, and Worf is doing his exercises with his, what is that, Kurtlet? What is that? sword he has?
Kurleth.
Kurleth. And the song from First Contact, the classical operatic piece, Berlioz. You know, in First Contact, Riker walks into the ready room and it's playing. It's playing
Yeah,
so
it's
loud,
Les
it's literally
Tro-
shaking the room.
That's Les Troyans or the
Yes.
Trojans.
Yes, exactly. That was pretty. I was like, it's such an obvious like nostalgia memorabilia, which is good, could be good or bad.
It's a
And I
weird
was like,
memorabilia though,
it's
because
ni-
most
it's
people
nice.
don't notice that music. But I guess maybe we do. I don't know. I always loved it because I like
thought
opera.
it was.
But
I thought it was a great. If Terry Metalis wants to like pick and choose the best of what he feels is like gonna work in this show, then okay, I'm like all for it now because the episode was so good. All the nitpicks. Can I just mention the doctor? What's her name? Dr.
Oak. Yep.
Dr. Oak.
If Beverly wasn't there, I think Shaw would have died because she doesn't seem to know what the hell she's doing. And I think they make her an imbecile to play up Beverly and the son. I think it's kind of like the weakest part of the episode. Beverly at one point is like shoving her. And then she's like, yeah, he has internal bleeding. This is like, I can just poke him and find this out.
Well,
It's just,
Dr.
no,
Oak-
no, he doesn't. I did the scan. And it's like, but shouldn't you know that? Anyway, it's just.
But Dr. Oak shoved her
It's just so
earlier,
stupid.
and Jack had to be like, "Hey, she's still hurt."
It's
or
so
whatever.
unprofessional. It's one of those things where it's so unprofessional and so. It's
So I'm like,
neither the
whatever.
time nor the place to be kind of combative like that. And that part of the episode is probably the only thing that really didn't work for me. So, but with the Worf and Raffi thing, Raffi's going to shoot Worf because she still doesn't realize that Worf is her handler. She only kind of like clicks in after because she's still affected by the drug. And Worf disarms her, and then he says this whole spiel about I am the son of Moog, and blah blah blah.
It was a great spiel. Those are great stuff. Yeah.
And then at the end, he's like, chamomile tea? How
Yeah.
many sugars do you take? I was like, oh, Worf's a comedian now. I don't mind this. This is all right. And the whole part about when they're scoping out the contact that the human guy who turns out to be a changeling, and they're joking
What?
back. They're
A
joking back.
changeling?
Yeah, but they're joking back and forth. And even Worf is like, he's like, you look conspicuous with that hood. And she's like, well, you're dressed in warrior gear. He's like, it's not warrior gear, it's casual. And then a whole line about they're making fun of beheadings and shit. And he's like, beheadings are on Wednesday. I'm like, I can see how this could annoy people, but I like it. I like it. So
Yeah,
should I keep
sure.
going, or somebody want to take over?
I think you're doing a great job. I'll just finish this off so that we can be brief, so we can
Yes.
get to the discussion and just say, yeah, like so back on the Titan on the Titan and through Worf and Raffi's investigation, we actually discovered that there are changelings among us. And so, like, on the Titan, what's going on is Seven, who's confined to quarters, gets to hop back into action when Captain Shaw kind of like prompts Jack to try to figure out why do they keep finding us. And Jack sees this trail of blood, and being out on the Mariposa all the time, and kind of living that life, he kind of knows stuff about the Fenris Rangers and stuff. Goes to conscript 7, and they have this cool little adventure, and that's when we find out we have changelings aboard the ship. We also get to see Vadic using the quantum tunneling technology craziness, and it's like a pretty cool weapon. I didn't know how it was gonna be, but it was pretty cool. And then Riker and Jean-Luc. I think the only thing we missed was Riker and Jean-Luc just going at it, like, and then Riker dismissing Jean-Luc from the bridge because
Jonathan Frakes' best acting ever
and
I've ever
directing
seen.
too.
And
So
well,
good.
yeah, actually, yes.
Directing felt like a
Directing
movie.
too, yeah.
All right, that was the episode summary. That was pretty quick, right? We did like 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
The sub commander tells us that the Shrike was the name of the mysterious alien in Dan Simmons' classic science fiction novel Hyperion. But you probably already covered that at some point. We did not cover that.
We
so
did
thank
not.
you for- Yeah, thanks for uncovering that.
Hyperion was the name of the airship at the island at the top of the world, but that's a whole other thing. Great movie,
Cake
by
is
the way.
Eternal says, we'll do some comments and then we'll get into discussion. My favorite part, Worf, everything Worf. My favorite part was seeing the rocks floating in the not nebula, just like they did in the animated series. Some of our planets are missing. Our planets are missing. Good thing there's a Vulcan on the bridge. Yes, it's very nice to see a Vulcan on the bridge. It's very nice to hear things like logic would dictate that we should do this, and Tavine's pretty cool.
And I believe that character is also part Deltan, which is
Yes,
interesting.
that's what I hear as well. That is what I hear as well. So that's going to be interesting. I'm sure that their vow of celibacy is on record.
I'm sure.
With Starfleet. Because mine is.
But only
My vow-
25% of the vows.
I always pretend I'm like characters like Ryzians or Deltans. I don't know why. It's like a little bit of a thing there. We'll talk about this more, but curious to hear your thoughts, gentlemen. But Beverly and any women in the audience as well, please. Beverly definitely in the wrong, in my opinion. I have some thoughts on that, so we'll talk about that in a second.
This is quite a day for Bev heads, I gotta say.
Yeah, true. By the way, happy birthday to Gates
Yeah.
McFadden, who has seen Starfleet Voice. She watched a couple episodes. She watched the one for Remember Me, and she liked it a lot. And she did a really nice cameo for me, which is very cool. I think I'll show it to you guys
Aw.
if you haven't seen it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
She doesn't watch it all the time though. It's like I think she only watched that one episode, and that that was it. Stan, you're on mute if you're trying to say something. Joanne, welcome. My favorite part was Worf in his casual attire. This episode was wild, says Galen. So action packed. It's true. It felt like a movie. And then let's see, how is the crew going to get out of this one? I know, but I can't say anything.
Dun-dun-dun.
If they do actually get out of this one, they might all just die.
That's it. It's
Jack
all
is,
over.
Jack is growing on me a little versus last week. That's good. I like Jack a lot. He's my space husband, so I'm glad you like him. Let's see here. That was like the scene where Pulaski shows a medic how to set broken bone with a splint when they lose their tech.
Yeah, I kind of wish that Oak was Pulaski. Wouldn't that be quite the story?
It would be cool, but Diana Muldaur would never
No.
come back. Jill also says the tunnel weapon is wild. I imagine the ancients and the Ori in Stargate fighting with something like that 1,000,000 years ago in a Stargate universe. That is interesting. It's the weirdest thing I've seen in terms of like weapons, but it's also very cool. I did not think a weapon like this would be as cool it is, but it's pretty cool. And we already saw how it works in episode 1, but this is a neat other application of it, and it's kind of interesting how they use it. I had a thought.
Yeah, I have some thoughts too about it. Yeah.
I had a thought of something they could have done, knowing the weapon, but it's all right. I'll
Let's get into that for a second. So Star Trek 2 Spock says, two-dimensional thinking, right? So this thing opens up right in front of the Titan, and it just, okay, we're just gonna go. Why not go over, under, around?
Oh well,
What's up
so
with
they
that?
couldn't do that because it was too late. The trajectory, it's like a big gigantic ship. It's harder to turn, so I don't think they could do that. My thought was that Riker could have played her into doing the thing one more time, and then immediately torpedoing the Shrike when they come back out next to it. But who knows if that could have worked either. I mean, like, the Shrike's also very powerful, so the Shrike could just answer back and cripple Titan. So they were kind of just like in a really tough situation.
It's a cat and mouse
overall.
game, baby.
Yeah, it is a cat and mouse
Yeah,
game.
it's cat and mouse. That's true.
All
All right.
Yeah, so you guys are dying to talk about this. I think Ken's definitely dying to talk about it. So Ken, why don't you go ahead and go? We'll get more comments later, guys. Keep them coming. But Ken, why don't you go ahead and give us your general impressions, and start us out, and then everyone else can kind of give their general impressions as well.
Well, first of all, I want to say, Sohail, thank you for having me here again, and I'm so glad to be on the panel of such illustrious Star Trek people, fans.
Thank
This was quite the episode. It had everything. I think it had the drama, it had the action, it had our characters sniping at each other, and I think it had amazing lines. Everything from, Shaw saying who's going to throw more weird shit at me, to, Seven of Nine saying sounds rehearsed, to LaForge. So many things going on. Really cool to see Worf and Raffi and the dynamic there. And, I at first thought, when I saw the fight with Jack and the Changeling, my first thought was, this is a Suliban. And I was thinking, Terry Matalas did a lot of work on Enterprise. Could it be the Suliban? Because, I put some thoughts up there about, could it be TOS villains, but going all the way back to Enterprise. But now we know it was not the Suliban. When Worf says, how long have you been away from the Great Link? The shock and ripple that went through all of Star Trek fandom at that point, I thought was pretty cool. I would bet it was just like I felt. I also thought it was an amazing tribute to Renee Agerbonnois when they said what they said about Odo, although without mentioning Odo directly.
Yeah. And I have a feeling we'll get more. I have a hope, anyways, that we'll get more mentions of Odo. But carry on.
What we're gonna get, and I know Stan is gonna be excited about this, is I firmly believe we are gonna see more of the Deep Space Nine crew joining this, and we're going to see more and more crossover with Deep Space Nine as these episodes continue on. Just makes sense. Overall, I thought it was a great episode. Lots to talk about, but my overall impression was fantastic. Pretty much all around, I agree with PJ about the weakness in the sickbay. I thought that was a little contrived. Otherwise, great episode.
Thank you. I just want to pause for a second to say, happy birthday to Cake is Eternal, to Ethan Peck, and to Gates McFadden. So it's like a big birthday.
Happy birthday,
Cake.
But especially to Cake is Eternal, who's a friend. So thank you. Very nice. We are so happy you're like hanging out with us on your birthday. It's very nice of you to do so. Very cool. Braxton, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you thought of this episode next?
I was so hoping that the dude would die. Like he wasn't coming back. I was thinking like, ooh, please give me what I want.
Which dude? Wait, which dude?
Oh, Jack.
I wanted Jack to die, dude. Like,
oh my.
Dude, like I was like, oh, please give me what I want. And then he came back. I said, damn. I just want this story just to like go away, dude. I'm like the spouse who was cheated on and like can't accept like the other spouse's like child out of wedlock. I just don't even want to acknowledge it. Like the first, like people talk about like the scene in the first at the end of the first episode when like Bev and Picard were looking at each other. I haven't even watched it, and like, the first 20 minutes, I was like, should I just like skip past this and like get to like the part that I want to see? but I didn't. I hung in there. I hate Picard and Beverly Crusher having a child. I absolutely hate it. But
Why?
I
You don't have to
really,
explain yourself, but why?
but I love the Worf and Rafi together. I had no idea that her name was Raffaella, but I love
Raphael.
it, dude. Now I want to call her
That
Raffaella all
proves
the
to me that
time.
you didn't pay attention to
Mhm.
any of the previous seasons of Star Trek Picard.
Dun dun dun.
Look at
No,
you, dude.
teasing.
So yeah, so I loved those storylines, and just like the last like 5 to 7 minutes were just like amazing. Like at the end when Riker was like, dude, get off the bridge. You killed us all. Like, I had rewound like 15 minutes and like Picard was like, oh yeah, like we gotta fight. Well, I know you're scared. You're scared of loss, but like we gotta fight. And then at the end when like all the pressure's on and like Picard's like, oh, like we gotta fight. And then you know, and then like the dudes just like use the weapon and I was like, ooh, wow, they did the damn thing. And then like you saw like Picard's like expression, he was like, "Oh my god!" And then you like the portal like opened up behind them, and it was like, "Ooh, wow!" So yeah, I thought this episode was really great. I wasn't expecting changelings. I'm totally into it. Like I feel like they didn't the changeling in fluid form. It didn't look like it does, and didn't look like they do in Deep Space Nine. Like they look like really gross. Like they look like vomit. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they
they
do.
have
They
like
look
a
Just
really
like
gross.
fleshy.
Like instead of
Yeah.
being like kind of like orangey yellow and stuff, they just like they look like vomit.
I have an idea about that, but well, the idea is that like maybe that's how they're evading the changeling detection system that's probably standard on every starship medical thing is that they have fleshy bits now that they carry around with them. of
Did they
who
have
knows
changeling
who.
effects in Discovery, and were they different? I remember in season 4, maybe.
I don't think.
know.
Did we see a changeling in Disco?
There was definitely a changeling in some episode. One of the recent seasons of.
It was
Discovery.
basically the same effect. There was just a lot more detail in this one today.
Okay.
That boy is very fortunate that Beverly did not have like a good gay friend like me. Because I would have been like, girl, you need to have an abortion.
That's true.
That
That's
boy
Wow.
is lucky.
Braxton.
Wow, Braxton.
That's
kinda harsh.
The anger.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I have thoughts about whether we're gonna have debates for centuries about whether Beverly was right or not. But geez, Braxton.
Oh goodness.
Benjamin says they look like sand on Discovery, and that's true. Yes, I remember now. It wasn't a good effect. This effect when the guy crumbles in Worf's hands, that part looked like ugh. But when it was on the floor, it looked a little bit more photorealistic. But yes, it does look kind of like weird and gross. You could chalk that up to the dude was like right on the verge of maintaining his shape, and maybe like he's sickly too. Maybe we see changelings who do drugs and smoke and stuff. I don't know. Maybe they do. They're definitely on Metallus Prime, so they're getting into some stuff. So it could affect their biochemistry or something.
It's a good thought. Yeah.
Halle Berry had multiple babies in her 50s. I'm looking at the chat.
Oh, okay.
Janet Jackson had a baby when she was 50.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not beyond belief that. But they made love under a waterfall apparently, and it was very sweet. She's like, that's where he was conceived, and she's like, I got pregnant. It's just so weird to hear Beverly say, I got pregnant. I don't know what it is. It's like because this kind of like family drama, like and all through TNG, you didn't know whether they were or not. It was always like kind of hinted at, but like as a viewer, you're like, are they? Because sometimes
No,
they like
but in
kiss on the
the,
lips and stuff, right? And it's like sometimes they have breakfast with each other, and it's like they seem
Remember
like a
in
couple.
Attached though, they addressed it and like
Did
they
they?
found out
And
they
he-
had feelings for each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he's
so-
like
He's like, now what do we do? And
she
was
finds
like,
out he loved her like the whole time.
And they
Right,
broke up
and
5 times.
Five
apparently.
times.
five
Yeah.
times. Yeah. So Stan, what are your? Oh wait, Braxton, did you finish your thoughts on the episode?
Oh yeah, I'm done.
I'm so mad at you about Jack Crusher, but I'm not going to say anything else about it. Maybe I will. I might be aggressive. I might be
knew it would
aggressive.
hurt you, but I just had
It
to.
did. It hurt. He's my
Mm.
husband. I have to defend him. I have to get you now.
So he's like 22, but he looks 44 or something like that.
I think he's probably closer to 24 or something. I don't
Being
know.
hyperbolic, but yeah.
But I'm 44 and I look like I'm 44, right? No, I'm just kidding. Stan, I was not fishing for a compliment. Stan, what do you tell us what you thought of this episode, please? And by the way, Stan, you made me aware. We talked about something you mentioned in the private chat earlier, and we should definitely talk about it so we can have a moment if you want to give that moment, because I know you like the show, so I like it too.
Sure.
This is Star Trek news, hot off the presses.
Yeah, I have a lot of commentary on everything so far and this episode, but yeah, I thought we might want to take a moment to just acknowledge that they just announced that Star Trek Discovery's 5th season will be its last, which I know is going to be talked about by plenty. I personally love Star Trek Discovery. I think it is a very fresh take on the franchise that moved it literally and figuratively forward in a lot of ways, doing a lot of different things that I was excited to see. I'm not terribly surprised that the 5th season will be its last. I'm a little bummed. I was hoping they would get at least 1 or 2 more, but I think they are probably the victim of inflation and all of the studios making a lot of different decisions than they had probably been planning for the last couple of years. But I felt it important to acknowledge. And I do want to say, from my perspective, we would not have Picard or Strange New World, certainly, or any of this new renaissance of Star Trek if it wasn't for Star Trek Discovery coming back in 2017 and doing a lot of really cool stuff. I have plenty of criticisms on it, and I know a lot of the fandom has some things to say. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it was certainly mine, and I would love to drink much, much more of it, but sadly, it is not going to come to pass.
Can I just
Giving
mention something
Disco her
about
flowers. I love it.
also with that news is the reveal that we won't get season 5 until possibly winter or spring of 2024, and it's 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think if they're gonna go out, they probably want it as polished and as like good as possible to say like, not necessarily an FU to being canceled, but saying like, listen, if we're going to go out, we're going to go out on the best season type of thing. We're going to have a good send-off, just like Picard season 3 ended on a great, or potentially will end on a great send-off. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we'll I think we'll do a special on Disco. Maybe we'll talk about it Friday on PJ's channel if he's
Disco's dead, baby. It's dead. Dead again.
The last days
in the
of
70s,
Disco.
now in the 20s.
The last days of Disco is what we're going to be calling our stream.
But you know what? I wouldn't put it beyond Paramount Plus to have those characters show up in other things. It's not beyond belief.
All right,
They're
Stan,
quite a distance into the future, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
Stan,
anything's possible.
it's
Time travel-y nonsense.
Stan, tell us about what you thought about this episode, and if you say anything mean about Jack Crusher, I think I'm going to lose it. No,
I won't. I firmly disagree with the Jack slander. I understand frustration with him. Certainly, I have it. I loved this episode. I thought we got a lot of really juicy details in a lot of what has been set up in the previous 2. I think we also got a lot of new information, new tendrils in this very complicated but not overly complicated plot. It just felt really juicy. Lots of really cool stuff happening. Some incredibly beautiful moments and great, fantastic acting from the whole cast. I thought there were a lot of little moments that really landed just from a look on someone's face. And then the scene that obviously stands out to me in this regard is between Picard and Beverly, talking about this huge ripple in his life that just occurred for him. And I think for me, it boils down to it's complicated because we've known and we've theorized on this about this for months. And so I've been thinking, if this is what they're going to do, I hope there's a really good reason. And I have to catch myself. And I will say, I want to acknowledge that we're 5 dudes talking about this, at least dude presenting. So there's definitely a woman's perspective missing in this conversation that I think should be acknowledged.
Yeah, I wish we had Michelle or Jess on, and also audience, please stand up. I think the women in the audience have been saying some cool things, and we'll try to highlight those things. But also tonight, Crusher Convo at 10:30 after and then after that. I mean, sorry, I got the times mixed up. Crusher Convo at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and then the Salon at 10:30. So we'll definitely get more talk about this and like from a feminine or female perspective as well.
I found myself being much more understanding after that scene. I still don't think it was the right decision from my male perspective, and like I would have wanted to know if somehow my gay ass ended up having a child that I wasn't expecting. I would have wanted to know, but I understand her reasoning, and I think the writers really crafted that scene very well, because it wasn't just like one thing that made her decide to do this. It was several several catastrophic events in fairly rapid succession. You know, they had all their experience on the Enterprise, a disaster of the week, right? And then this Romulan refugee crisis, which began before the star went supernova. For folks who haven't read the Picard tie-in novel, The Last Hope, it sort of fills in that gap that is between Nemesis and the first season beautifully. There's a lot in there that I wish we saw on screen, including, you know, Picard's promotion, moving over to the Verity. I think Beverly's description of that 2 months before she left the Enterprise, I think that was after he was promoted. It seemed to me like he was already on the Verity at that point. She was still on the Enterprise. And in the novel, they make it clear, like I forget exactly what happens with her, but she does not move over with him at any point. That random aside, the Worf stuff was incredible. Many on this chat know that I am not a Worf fan. He reminds me of my father, and Worf as a father will tell you why I feel that way. But I won't derail this by talking about all of my points about Worf. This is a in-universe criticism, though. I love Michael Dorn and the depth that he adds to the franchise, even as until later in Deep Space Nine, and now he lacked depth as a character. But the humor was incredible. My many laugh out loud moments in this episode came from Worf. I love that he's working on himself. I wish my father would take notes. And a lot of the moments that we got in the episode, I just felt like, okay, this is what I've been wanting to see. And I'm sort of all over the place. When we deep dive certain sections, I'll have more thoughts, but loved it overall.
Very nice. PJ, you gave kind of a little bit of your thoughts in the summary. What else did you want to say about the episode?
At the very end, when Riker finally decides, well, I have no other choice but to go with Picard's option. He says, fire everything we got. And they don't anticipate, which people will criticize and say, well, shouldn't they have known that they could have used the portal against them, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, listen, they're tired. Hours have gone by. It's like this is not like happening in 20 minutes. Like hours and hours are going by. People are stressed. I doubt anybody slept, even though like they're told to rest. They're not. Everybody's on edge. They're on, like thinking they're gonna die every 2 seconds. So at that point of like at the end when that happens, I totally bought it. And Picard's like, realizes his. Well, not really his mistake, but, you know, like the course of action was backfiring on them. So the ship is crippled and the lights go down really low. And by the way, you can watch this with the lights off and it looks pretty good. It's not that dark. On Crave in Canada, it doesn't look nearly as dark as I've heard people talk about. So like it's the lighting. And by the way, there's a lot of good, well-lit scenes in this episode I want to note. But at the very end, when Picard goes, Will, and you just see the camera right on Riker, and there's no words. It's a couple of seconds go by, and you just see his facial expression. He's thinking about Mzadi. He's thinking about his life is flashing before his eyes, and it sours him, and he's reasonably pissed at Picard, even though he's going to apologize. There's going to be some kind of apology later, or making up. But he's like, "Get off the bridge! You killed us all." And just the way it was lit, and just the tone of the scene and how that was handled was one of the best moments I've ever seen in Star Trek. It doesn't make the episode the best thing I've ever seen, but damn, at least for this show, if this is the course and this is how exciting it's going to be, I don't want it to be 5-6 episodes in the nebula. I want to get the hell out of here by the next episode and move on to the next thing and do what Worf said and find out what the plan is and stop them. And it's going to be that cut and dry, and there's going to be they're going to need a lot of resources. They can't do this alone, so I'm assuming it's going to really ramp up.
Hey, Marcelo.
Going forward. Anyway, that's
Very
hey
good.
Marcelo.
No, that is one of the good scenes.
How's it going, bud?
Sorry, I'm late, guys.
Marcelo, real quick, in 20 seconds, what did you think of this episode?
20 seconds.
No, seriously.
17 seconds.
17 seconds. That's a good one, yeah.
This episode was bananas. I'll just say that. It was bananas.
Okay, that's all you want to say? No, just kidding.
That's a good description.
That's all I'm going to say.
It was pretty bananas. What was your favorite scene, real quick?
My favorite scene was between Picard and Beverly in the med bay. I thought that was a brilliantly acted scene. I didn't think that was going to be the overall reason why Beverly sort of removed herself from Picard and the rest of the crew, but I really, really liked her reasoning because I thought it made sense, and it just worked for me. Like I said, it's not what I would have done, but it worked for me in the long run.
Right on. Well, just overall for me, this has been really interesting and eye-opening listening to how you guys feel about Beverly and all the stuff in the chat, because I can't wait to see what the overall I haven't seen Twitter today, so I don't even know what Twitter says, and I can't wait to hear more perspectives.
It's universally disliked. No. It actually,
or just debated, I think.
It's actually gotten a lot
of
of praise. Not across the board, because I haven't listened to everybody, but what I've looked up today, I'm like, oh wow, I'm pretty surprised by people who are usually very nitpicky and very negative on this kind of show, who have doubted it up till now, and I completely understand. I told our friend Ruben, I said, I like the show so far, but if it doesn't start ramping up in episode 3, I think I'm just gonna wait a couple of episodes because I don't like it in small doses. But this gave me, it's a powerhouse dose. If you want a good just fucking episode of anything, it's wow, this is exciting. Even if you don't know really the context of what came before it, you can just
right.
A newbie can come in and say, "What's this? This seems exciting. Let me check it out."
I think there's a risk when you have an incredibly intense action set piece like you have in this episode. There's a lot of good stuff with the chase and the technicalities of it and all the little ins and outs. But on top of that, you have these brilliant character moments, not just Beverly and Jean-Luc, but you have so many. You have the moment with Seven and LaForge. You have the moment with Shaw. There's just a lot of great freaking acting in this episode.
Poor Shaw, man.
Yeah, I know.
He's on the table. His incompetent doctor. He can't. He's literally gasping for air. Crusher comes over and shoves the incompetent doctor, and it's like, do you have trouble breathing? Why even ask the question? Why even ask the question? Just poke him in anyway. But I think poor Shaw's like on the verge of death, and he's been screwed over. He's been manipulated, and when he comes out of it, he's probably going to be a good guy on the good side of everything, and I hope that happens.
Oak, and who knows, now that we know there's changelings, what if Oak is a changeling and was trying to kill Shaw? So, you never know.
Yeah.
I would like that a lot more than what they gave her. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I didn't understand a doctor reacting that way. The mistake, missing something in a scan, that didn't bother me. Mistakes happen even with medical professionals. But
it wasn't a mistake, though. It was, oh yeah, the attitude for sure. It wasn't a mistake though. Beverly said that the scans,
Right.
those imaging scans, don't always pick up post traumatic or something like post something like
Delayed
bleeding.
internal bleeding.
Internal bleeding. Yeah,
Yeah.
In training,
yeah, exactly.
And
doctors
But-
and that's
so-
the chief medical officer of that ship should have known that. But here's the thing: she has to be kind of a dullard for Beverly, the prop of Beverly.
Well,
and I thought that
I
was like
think
I don't think she has to though. They could have tapped her.
they didn't have to do that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying the choice to do it was a bit cheap. You know what I mean? Like
I think
it
it's something
didn't
different
come
because
across as
she-
genuine, like how doctors would act in this situation.
Right.
In my mind, Dr. Oak and Beverly should have been like on the same page and Crusher. But there's this conflict where he's like, "Don't touch my, don't grab my mother," and she's like, "Nah." It's like, no, behave. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But other than that, everything everything with Beverly and Picard and all that works.
Yeah, so
man. It's
I
like
want-
This Is Us meets Star Trek. This is Star Trek.
So I really wanted to talk about the Beverly and Jean-Luc scene personally because it really affected me a lot because this is like I'm a Bev head here and I've been like
Oh,
a huge
yeah.
fan of of Beverly Crusher, and one of the things that I really loved about TNG as a series was like that same Mulder and Scully type of like will they won't they kind of like kind of always like rooting for it to happen but then also wondering if it should happen and like maybe it's not right and things like that. And the reason that's like so important to me is because I can remember like very intense having kind of being like the Jean-Luc in a situation, with a very intense relationship, kind of like the one Beverly and Jean-Luc have. But aside from that, like I think personally for me, the reasoning that Beverly gives makes a lot of sense. And Michelle, who was here earlier, she had to leave because I think Braxton scared her away when he said that he wished Jack Crusher would die. But but anyways, the thing that I think was that to me is important. I didn't know how to articulate it till I saw her tweet earlier today. But it's that you have to remember, and she kind of says it actually in this episode, that she lost her parents, then she lost her husband, then she lost her son, and now here's this like last kind of vestige of family that she has, like, and I buy it completely. I think
They're giving the viewer all of the reasoning one could possibly imagine to justify or to make you understand why. Like she's giving every reason. Like there's no stone unturned in her explanation.
But to me, it's a solid.
But I'm saying it needed to happen for Picard to understand because Picard needed to know all of this information.
But he
And
doesn't understand.
It's a big exposition dump, but the way it's handled, it's very like people could be like melodramatic, I guess. But for these characters to have this conversation, it's surreal. It's like this is Beverly Crusher and Jean-Luc Picard talking about conceiving their kid under a waterfall, and she keeps it away from him. And the whole explanation of like Jack had the choice. I like that they put that in there. It's like she didn't keep it from Jack when Jack was old enough to understand. And when she felt he was old enough to understand, she explained it to him, and then he decided. And
I can understand
her
how
reasoning
Jean-Luc-
about. Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
I can understand how
Sorry.
I do it to you all the time, so it's fine. It's fair. I can understand how Jean-Luc would be really disappointed and hurt because even that little last nail in the thing of like, well, yeah, and then I finally told Jack, and he didn't want to see you either. In his mind, he's probably wondering what's so bad about me, and but when she explained it, I get it. Like I 100% get it. It's not you.
Yeah.
It's the circumstances around you. It's the life you chose. But Jean-Luc also brings the scene's so brilliant because Jean-Luc also like presents a really good solid point in return, which is like, well, you didn't even like give me the chance to like maybe if you had expressed that, which she may not have known how to articulate. Mind you, at the
I was
time,
surprised at
we don't
how
always
well
know.
this stuff was
We're not
handled,
always
man.
blessed
It's
to have
pretty-
a writer writing our dialogue, so I like it when characters don't know something,
Yeah.
and and so that whole thing. But then I think, and this is going back to my point about Michelle's tweet, like I don't think Jean-Luc got it until the end when he saw Jack almost dying, and that's when it kind of clicked in for him, and I think he like because before he was like, this is totally unforgivable, like there's no fixing this situation, I'm very upset, to like bonding again with Beverly over like their child being alive that could have died. Like Jean-Luc didn't even get a chance to like know Jack, and he almost lost him. So it's a huge deal, and I love that aspect of the episode. And I think that's what, in my mind, again, I don't think this is about like, who was right or who was wrong, but in my mind, Beverly's actions, based on what I know about her, were totally justified in that sense.
Yeah, she explains herself beautifully, and and he has like issues, and he asks her questions, and and when they have that moment where Jack almost dies, they're like a little family moment, and then you're like, everything's okay. You get the impression that sort of part of it is resolved now, and now they're gonna go forward as a unit. Did anybody actually think Jack was gonna die? Because I was like, no, they're not gonna do that to the character.
It went long enough where I thought. Oh, you too! Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm with Braxton. I tolerate Jack, but I don't like Jack, so I tolerate the guy.
Jack's a good guy. You got to give him a chance.
All right.
I kept thinking they're not going to David Marcus this. Like, that's what I kept thinking. They're going to really David Marcus this so fast.
I love that he looks like Patrick Stewart, and I said that before, and it's like, and I love that Riker points it out, and he's like, "Yeah, you look like your dad." He's like, don't say he's my dad."
Also, I love that little tiny moment with Picard in the elevator, as he's going to sickbay.
That's his 17 seconds.
Yes, because
boom, there you go.
You said it right there. That moment is a callback to Picard and Riker in the bar. And as a writer, that is called laying down a hat and picking up later on. So I just love shit like that.
It was delightfully done. It was well done because you really think
up
about it, but it's not like hitting you over the head.
Yeah.
But also in that same scene, while Jean-Luc and Beverly are having it out, Jack and Riker are talking, and that's a powerful scene too. Again, just the acting is so good. Like, Jack, and I love that they even brought up
and the characters are mature and reasonable with each other.
They brought up the synth
for the
thing,
most part.
and I love that part where Riker's like, he's still the same man. Also, all of y'all, what do you think about the accent being explained? Reasonable? Is that a good explanation? Everyone who was wondering about the accent?
Oh yeah,
it's fine. And Beverly even makes the joke about it might be in his
that.
DNA, which people were joking about before we even
right, which is hilarious.
I buy that. Also, I really like the fact that for a large part of this episode, at least while they're going to the Nebula, battling with the bad guy ship. I can't remember the name of the ship. I like that Riker and Picard are basically at each other's throats because they don't agree with the way that the other one is handling the situation. So I really, really appreciate that. All throughout that scene I kept seeing Beck and Mariner in my head going, "We don't do conflict. We don't do conflict." But but it was just great.
I have a real problem with Riker's line, "You killed us all." I think that was, first of all, it harkened back to a moment in The Hunt for Red October.
That's right.
That's what it is. It's
you
an
arrogant
homage.
ass! You killed us!
You arrogant ass! You killed us!
Right, you killed
So
us.
good.
But, but it just is, if you're gonna say that, why would you say that in earshot of the entire bridge crew?
There was a whole lot of things being said in front of the entire bridge crew a little too loudly for my personal taste. Yeah. And you could see in their eyes, they're all trying not to like side eye.
Yeah, but
it was great.
You guys have you guys ever worked in a real estate office? It's very similar.
I mean, dude,
you're still captain of a ship.
I feel like people lash out when they're angry, and those were trying, stressful times, dude. Like, like Picard was saying, like, "Oh, fight," and like he was like saying, "Oh, Riker, like, don't be scared," and then he's like, "Man, I followed your advice, and look what the fuck happened." Like, we're all dead now, dude. Like, get out of here.
I also think that, like,
he's angry.
you should be able to have these kinds of discussions with your crew, because that gives the opportunity for them to speak up if they need to, if they see an opportunity that's not there. I think it's actually probably productive to be fully vulnerable and say whatever ideas you have.
You
on a
killed us all.
bridge.
You killed us all,
Yeah.
Danny.
Yeah, and then
think-
like
I
if
think there's
Seven
gonna be
was
a
on the
moment-
bridge, he might have like given Riker a glaring stare or something. There's again, like I can't really blame Riker for saying that and I don't think it was meant in a way. Maybe it was just like kind of. I don't think it was meant to be like super hurtful. I mean, it was definitely meant to be a little hurtful,
Oh, it
but
was
like
completely,
like,
totally
yeah.
hurtful. Yeah,
But not-
totally
but-
hurtful.
But I think that Jean-Luc also, was wrong in the situation. Riker kept like saying, okay, I'm
No.
open to your input and like he ended up being wrong in the situation because he miscalculated the
But
weapon
Picard did not fire the photon torpedoes. Riker did. Riker gave the order.
at Picard's constant urging. He was like,
But
now's the time.
Riker
like,
was
finally.
still the captain. Riker was still the captain.
Yeah, it's fair.
I have a problem with Riker blaming Picard for this because Riker was. The
I
captain.
think he will. I think he may regret that. I think in a moment of anger and like people can be vulnerable like that and say a hurtful thing. I think what matters is what's the conversation afterwards going to be. How are they going to? What's the next
Right.
conversation between two of them going to be about, and will it be addressed? I hope they do address it, and we're like, but they're not gonna. It seems very dire at the end, and they do have a good. They do give you a good sense of dread, but it's like we know they're not gonna die.
No, but- so the energy surge.
I'm wondering how it's gonna happen.
Well, the energy surge is electrical and biological. I'm telling you, it's Nagilum.
I-
Is that from where man has no lease, or what's
Yes,
that?
yep.
Yeah.
I so want the next time that we see Picard to be like in the turbo lift or something and him like break it down because Riker said such cruel things, dude. Dude, that would be great, dude.
That'd be
really,
funny.
Generations all over again.
There were a lot of really good moments that made me think about. I'm gonna step up to my Discovery soapbox for just a hot second and say this episode had a lot of emotion, and I'm not seeing people be critical about it on Twitter the way that they are for other aspects of this franchise. Like everything that happened in this episode, I may or may not like, but none of it was like, well, that doesn't make sense. They wouldn't be mad about that. They wouldn't be crying about that. Like this was natural human stuff happening. When
Yes.
when he stormed out and didn't even acknowledge Jack, it was right after he heard, well, Jack didn't want you in his life either. So yeah, that felt pretty natural. And the Picard and Riker stuff, it was pestering for the entire episode. Okay, fine, we'll do it. And then, see, I was right. You've killed us. It wasn't like I didn't like it either, but it felt very natural. Like I understood where that reaction was coming from. The cleanup is going to be lovely in the next episode, I think.
Actually, yeah.
Real quick, springtime. And Jill asked the question, what creepy guy? Because Jack Crusher's my space husband. He is not lost, so I'm not sure who you're talking about, but please let me know. Unless you're talking about the creepy guy that Worf and
The creepy guy on the Titan? The changeling on the Titan?
Yeah, that guy's not my husband. He was creepy from the start. Yeah, sorry. That guy's not my husband. But the creepy guy on the planet Metalis that Worf and Raffi are interviewing, he could be like a side boyfriend, like, or whatever, because he was kind of cute. But also that guy played young someone Picard in the Nexus. He was one of Jean-Luc's kids, the youngest kid, and
Was he really?
he was on Voyager.
Yeah, he was the creepy little kid in Janeway's Hollow novel.
Yes.
You must forgive
Wow.
my sister. She isn't well.
Yes.
He was also
And
in
now
the Kirstie Alley, Christopher Reeve's version of Village of the Damned. I think he was also
Wow.
he was also in Seinfeld. He played the sick kid that he told Kramer to get a baseball player to hit 2 home runs or something, and he gave him the card back that was from George's work. Anyway,
What do you guys think is up with Jack's vision? The audience is asking.
Uh,
with Seven of Nine and the branches.
Oh,
Connect
okay.
the branches, something like that.
Yeah.
It felt very like gaseous, whatever. I'm wondering if he actually does have a memory of where Vatic is connected in all this that just isn't obvious to his conscious mind, and this is just how it's presenting itself.
Well, I thought that's possible, but I also thought, is he picking up elements of the Great Link with the branches and the connecting? You know, would it be weird if Jack Crusher was an unknown changeling or was a changeling?
Oh,
But
no.
how would he be a changeling though if he was born of Jean-Luc? And Stan, you're on mute. I think you were saying
Are you saying that he's been replaced by a changeling?
something.
Like,
Oh.
Like Dr.
Like a
Bashir.
sleeper agent.
Yeah.
I don't.
I would
see
not
it,
like that
but
personally
It's an interesting
because
idea.
I kind of want Jack Crusher. I kind of want that happy ending. I'm hoping that Jack and Jean-Luc and Beverly. You're like, no, it's not.
Beverly
Gonna happen.
speculates that whatever's going on, it's probably not about Jack, but about Picard. And this game that the Vatic is playing with them, Vatic has every opportunity to destroy them, but I guess the presumption is no, she doesn't because she wants Jack alive. But now they're sinking in the nebula with apparently no hope of survival. So maybe it's the Shrike that was like, okay, I've saved you. This is all a distraction, like Worf says. Like everything we've seen so far is just a diversion. Vatic, the Shrike, there's a bigger thing that has to do with the changelings, but maybe there's more to it.
And
There's a lot of
something
mystery.
else stolen from Daystrom, which ... probably reference to Lore, who
Probably.
we know are going to be in this
I'm
season.
wondering if it's lore or something else because lore we already saw in the trailer, and so I'm wondering if they're holding out for something bigger. And if that's the case, do you guys have any idea of what could be bigger that's being stored at the
Maybe
The
Lore-
M5. It's the M5. Yeah.
Maybe somebody needs Lore or maybe it's Lore's plan to connect to another crystalline entity and use it to destroy worlds, and like
Ooh,
maybe
wow.
the founders
Ooh,
want
wow.
to use the crystalline entity as a weapon or something. I don't know.
I'm really hoping it's not a bait and switch and Lore is actually the big bad of this. Like, obviously he's connected somehow. I'm really hoping they don't do that to Amanda Plummer because this character is just getting juicy.
I agree.
Do you
I
think
would
she's a
like-
changeling?
That's my thought right now, or at least working with. That would seem to make some sense because
I feel like changelings don't smoke.
yeah.
But they could.
Presumably
They
they
could.
can, when
It's
they're
like-
when they're in whatever form they can
Solid forms,
consume
yeah.
and they
do all the
theoretically
things.
they can. but,
And remember, Odo could be
I don't know if they enjoy
fire,
it.
right? And he could he took the shape of fire at one point. So maybe if Vatic is a changeling, maybe the
it's been
cigar is
established that the
part of
changelings
thing.
are very powerful. Like they can turn into small things and sometimes a bit larger things, and like they can hold like shapes, like they can be a chair. The one kind of like nitpick is like when I know Jack Crusher has a really strong punch. He can knock a dude out with one punch. Okay. But when he hits the changeling's face kind of like goes all funky. I'm thinking if changelings are really that good, wouldn't they just act like they would? That would just be a dead giveaway. You could just hit a changeling.
I think the
and then
gas
that's-
was affecting the changeling. Like
Yeah,
normally he could probably
could be,
hold his
yeah.
form, but that
That's a good-
veridical gas or whatever it is. Real quick, I want 2 points because I want to go back to the visions that Jack was having. But before that, earlier Jill mentioned the animated series episode. What was it?
One of our planets is missing.
That's right. One of
Right.
our planets is missing. And was wondering if you guys thought the nebula and was similar to that what we saw in our one of our planets is missing, which was like an alive what was it, like an alive
So the nebula itself
kinda
would
nebula
save
type
them.
thing.
Would be like,
But-
oh, you're
but
Well,
my-
it's biological. They have.
I can't. Yeah, they did say it's biological and electrical or something like that. But I can't speculate because I actually know, unfortunately. So I'm gonna sit out of this one. But
Would
if
it-
you guys have any ideas,
would it be
I think
something
Jill
so
would like to hear
simple
it.
as the nebula just, for lack of a better term, poops it out?
Yeah,
It just
exactly.
sinks and it just out. Oh, you're free now.
So we know. I'll tell you what we know from this episode. We know
Chapter
that
4,
there-
poop out.
we know that there's this like weird power surge that keeps happening. We know that there's like
Yeah.
a gravity well at the center of the nebula, so you can't go through the nebula. And we know that you don't want to get close to that gravity well because you probably can't escape it either. And so yeah, it's getting a little tense in there. That's
But
what we
they-
know.
but
And
they've
that it's
had this-
biological signals as well.
But they've had situations like this before, like in what was it, Times Squared, where the Enterprise D had to fly. It was getting sucked into the nebula and had to fly through the nebula, right? So they've had these situations before, and I think, first of all, we know that this is, unless this is some gigantic fake out, we know our characters are probably going to live through the next episode, right? So, and I have
Maybe
to
some
ask.
of them. No, just kidding.
I have to ask you, Sohail, how many of these
Yes.
episodes have you seen all 6?
No, I've only seen. I can't do one of those tweets. I'm dying to do one of those. I have seen all 6 episodes. I have seen the first 6 episodes of Star. No, I can only do. I've seen the first 4 episodes.
I
Star
see.
Trek Picard. So I have seen them. I have not. I did not have access to watch them over again, so it's not through screeners. Starfleet Sohail is just really lucky and gets these weird opportunities thrown
Dun, 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 yep.
thrown his way. Yeah. So I sometimes with any other show I would wait week to week, but with Picard I just can't wait. I'm just like too excited.
Haven't we've seen the Titan in other scenes, in other preview scenes that we haven't seen yet. So the Titan survives because we've seen it in some of these other preview scenes, and I can't wait to see.
Good way to look at it.
Yeah. And I
We
can't
also
wait
know
to.
at some point Vatic is going to end up on the ship with her goons. So
Yeah.
I would assume that's coming next episode because they veered off and we didn't see that. So I forget who said it earlier, but it is interesting that they veered away. Is it does seem like Vatic is just delaying them rather than getting the job done, which does kind of make it feel like she's part of something, not leading something. But
Right.
it could swing back the other way too. It'd be interesting to see.
Vatic is in my mind, Vatic is a glorified, basically a really kick-ass henchwoman
Could be.
for somebody much worse. Now, whether that's lore or somebody that we haven't seen as of yet, I have no idea.
My favorite line, which hasn't been said yet but is in the previews, is "Let's boldly get the hell out of here." I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see how that's used. But yeah.
Up in the chat, I think let's see here. Maybe Lore dug up Moriarty. Yeah, I'm wondering if Lore's connected to Moriarty in some way. Let's see.
But Moriarty was never out in the real world. He was always in the holodeck, it's going to be interesting how they do that.
Well,
Well,
mobile
now he
emitters
could
could be a thing now.
Yeah, mobile emitters could be a thing. It's true.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, good point.
The spy changeling stress-free K says was not affected by the noxious gas, but the spy changeling that's the other theory that it could be maybe both those changelings had kind of exceeded their like time where they can hold their shapes, so they were like straining to hold their shapes, and so like that was the thing with the spy changeling hadn't regenerated or whatever yet, so that's why he was falling apart. It was cool too that Raffi thought it was like a withdrawals, but then it ended up being that he's just can't hold his form any longer. And I like the way Worf was like, "I have seen you before. I've seen this before," and like all that stuff. And then Raffi's like, "Don't let it get away," and they vaporize it, of course.
I laughed at that part for some reason. I was like, "Yeah, that's funny."
No stun here, dude.
Before we move on from the Titan, because we haven't spent any time on Raffi and Worf, I think Stan, I'm gonna hand it to you to kind of give us your Worf Raffi thoughts that you've been waiting to share kind of with us.
Sure. Well, I think since the preview when he said that he's embraced pacifism, I've had my curiosity piqued. I mentioned earlier I was not a Worf character fan, in-universe character fan, for a long time for a lot of reasons. But in the first minute in this episode, he was funny. he was Worf but evolved, and this just like we had like the Butch and Sundance vibe with Picard and Riker, we're getting this buddy detective situation with Rafaela and Worf that I love. I want to see where it can go. I want to see how aggressive they can get with each other. The fight building between them, maybe if they go that route, could be really cool to see. But or just leave it as like no, they actually get along the entire time. There's going to be a lot of really interesting stuff to see with that. But Worf was hilarious, but still Worf. And I thought, like, just like they've been saying in all of the interviews, these characters are older, they're different, and it's interesting to see how he is different. What did he say? I have learned recently you must embrace the calm as well as the fire, or as humans would say, I'm working on myself.
That was weird. I cringed at that. That was like the one cringe moment in the whole episode, besides the doctor. But it's like it sounds like he's like on on The View in an interview or something. It sounds like Michael Dorn saying that. But that was the one part where I was like, that's very 2020. 2020s, working on yourself.
I liked it. Stress Free K says Worf is the Eckhart Tolle of the Klingons, which is kind of funny.
Did anybody love? I was going to say about the Worf and Raffi dynamic. I loved good cop, the classic good cop bad. It's such a trope, but it worked really well. Where he's like, "Oh, it's not your fault," and she's like, "Oh, really?" And she's like, "I'm wondering is she play acting or is she serious?" Like I was wondering, that kind of thing, but. I thought their chemistry was great, and I think by the end of it, there won't be a contentious relationship between them at all. I think from now on, when he finally says, "You are my partner," it's not like I'm your handler. It's like now we're equal partners. So going forward, I think it's going to be simpatico, between two of us.
Simpatico. I think they're going to have a lot of fun together. I really like the pairing of Raffi and Worf a lot. What do you guys think of? Like the whole thing of like think of me as like a subcontractor or something. Like what is Worf's status and like in Starfleet, what do you guys speculate that I'm sure we'll find out a lot or a little bit more, but what do you guys speculate Worf's been up to, or what do you know from like the novel maybe like that?
Well, there's character description of Worf officially from this season where it says he was the captain of the Enterprise after.
Oh, I didn't realize
left.
that. Okay.
And there was some incident somewhere,
Captain Worf.
and he left after this incident, and he is captain only in rank. He doesn't have a ship, so whether he's a retired or no longer serving captain, but basically what he's trying to say that he works with Starfleet, but he's not of an official capacity, which I don't think is Section 31. I think it's just he is literally just a subcontractor. His interest is probably separate from theirs. Like he has information that he's brought to them, or maybe he doesn't because maybe he doesn't trust them. I don't know, but he's. I think he's not active in Starfleet, but he works with them. Like they're okay with him. What do you call it? Like in the United States, they have like black ops, people who do whoever does the dirty work.
He said
that
it
the
right.
government doesn't want to admit to, basically.
Oh,
He's
like a mercenary
worker.
sort of.
Wet worker. There you go. Yeah,
He's a wet worker.
There you go. Okay.
They're called wet workers. Okay, cool.
They're wet
But
workers.
Worf also mentions in the scene where they kind of reference Odo and do that little homage, but he references that Odo had mentioned to him that there was a faction that had split off from the Great Link because they still didn't agree after the
They couldn't get
war
over
had
the
ended,
Dominion War.
and that this is probably the faction that is involved in that. Do you guys think we might see? Do you think the head of this faction is Salome Jens's character, and do you think that we might see that character come back? Like, I kind of hope we do.
Well, I was just looking her up to see if she's still alive, and she is still
And
alive.
she-
The actress is
she's-
still alive.
How
Yeah.
old
Am I
is
laughing?
she?
I'm sorry.
Just curious.
She was born in 1935.
Oh, so she's probably around 80.
She's in her 90s. Yeah.
90s, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe we won't see Salome Jens come back, but that was my immediate first thought. Is like that was the character that I thought like might not have agreed and like would have, but they could still be behind it. You know, we don't have to see the character.
But
or
she
whatever,
did. She agreed pretty strongly at the end of Deep Space Nine, I think, if I remember the storyline.
I'm trying to remember too. It's been
So,
been
yeah.
a long time since I've seen. Deep
By the
Space
way,
Nine.
by the way, I just have to say when the changeling angle was revealed to me this morning at like 3 a.m. in my house, I was watching this like at 3 a.m. in my house. I almost jumped out of my goddamn chair. I swear to God, I had to stay so quiet, or else I was gonna wake up my whole damn house. I was so happy, I almost lost my mind.
The
Yeah, but
times
there's-
they are a changeling.
Oh my God!
Oh my
Check,
goodness.
please. Although I would say the description, because I was making some crazy guesses on my Twitter feed, the description that it was a long lost, forgotten Starfleet enemy. I mean, the Changelings, the Dominion War was not that long ago. So
I don't think
you
he
know.
said that. I don't remember.
No. The description of the episode said that, which may have been. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Well, 20 some odd
possibly.
years could be a long lost. Well, it's more than that, right? Because the events of DS9 were probably like 30 years ago, so it's relative, you know. Like if you're a Vulcan, that's like a blink of an eye,
Yeah.
or like a deep breath.
So do you think this
basically.
season's going to be the Dominion War Part 2, or at least the beginning of it? I suppose it would be
I have
resolved.
no
I don't
idea.
know.
Going back to the visions for a second, so I think that is very similar to. None of you guys have seen 12 Monkeys except Marcelo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So
I got to see 1 through 11 first. Oh, I'm so
Wow,
bad.
PJ.
I'm bad.
You're not
I'm
even a
very
You
dad,
are.
and you did like a great dad. Oh wait, you are a dad. Sorry, that was a dad joke. That was a good dad joke. All right, Marcelo. So did that scene where Jack is having a vision not remind you of the Red Forest a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I was
Okay.
like, that looks like the Red Forest. Yeah.
So 12 Monkeys fam, is Jack Crusher a prime?
I'm not.
Is
I'm not-
Terry Matalas secretly merging
No.
the two universes?
yeah, I mean,
It's
yeah,
not gonna
yeah,
happen. I don't think it's gonna be a big thing, but I think he's
Yeah, I'm
secretly.
not. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I like I can like maybe maybe he'll do like a tip of the cap to that, but I don't think he'll.
That's what
do
I'm
it.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't-
We won't spend any more time
Yeah.
on that. That was
This
the
is
only
the first
12
Star
Monkeys
Trek.
thing I
This is the
saw.
first season of Star Trek that has not only references to Star Trek but another show called 12 Monkeys.
Yeah,
So
lots-
there's Easter eggs for both fans
Yeah, it's
of
true.
those shows, or fans of both of those shows. I mean, so.
I like this, Joanne Robertson. Nice to see you, Joanne. Worf looks good. Silver Targ.
He's got that Pai Mei look from Kill Bill.
He
Oh yeah,
does
that's
have
right.
that look. Let's see what else.
So
What
12
else?
Monkeys was an NBC Universal show, and Star Trek is
On
a Paramount.
Sci-Fi.
Yeah,
It was
so-
on Sci-Fi. Yeah, it was on Sci-Fi.
right, but
Network.
was produced by Universal and NBC Universal, and Star Trek obviously is not. So the chances of these two things merging together is probably not going to happen.
Thank goodness.
Oh, I don't think they're gonna merge,
Yeah.
like in the sense that like
Yeah.
we'll have like a 12 Monkeys Star Trek crossover. I just mean that like Terry Matalas is bringing in some interesting elements that relate very strongly to 12 Monkeys.
We got the literal police over here in Ken.
Exactly.
the literal police. That's funny. Let's see. There's also the last thing to cover is 7 of 9. So what did you guys think about 7 in this episode? I want to say one thing before you guys go real quick, is just that I really loved the scene with her and Alondra, right? Alondra LaForge, is that the name of the character? Well,
Sydney.
LaForge.
Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney. Alondra's the other daughter who we haven't met yet. So yeah, sorry, Sydney, LaForge, and 7. That scene was great. I love that 7 was like, "This sounds rehearsed," in that one moment. Like, but then I also like that moment where she's like, "All right, Commander 7." And like 7
Yep.
kind of like feels really like good about that, and I thought that was really good. And Terry Matalas had hinted that they weren't gonna like hit us over the head with it, but they were definitely gonna address the situation of Seven's, the dead naming type thing and relating it to that. And so I feel like this episode does do a good job so far of continuing that idea. And like, who knows? We'll see. Maybe Captain Shaw will be calling her Commander Seven by the end of the show.
He better be. I thought it was a lovely moment. My one criticism is like, for 3 episodes now, it's my father, my father, my father. Like, Sydney LaForge is the Meghan McCain of the Star Trek universe now. Like,
Oh my god.
we get it. You are a LaForge.
Wow.
We get it. And like, and listen, Geordie's great. Like, I'd be bringing it up once in a while too, but like that last line of like something about like, he may think that of you, but my father wouldn't. Like, I think that line could have even been, but I don't. Like, not everything needed to tack back to her father.
But that says a lot about Sydney's character, because I think like a lot of times, like, it says a lot about her character to me, because it's like she didn't have the confidence to be, to say that yet. Like, she has to like kind of use her father's like, his weight to give gravity to like something that she could have just, like what you said, like easily said, like, not to me, but like she thinks like, oh, it won't be as meaningful to Seven if I say it that way. And it's kind of cute to see like this, like, maybe not cute, but like, it's kind of like relatable to see that, because I think we've all experienced that when we were younger, like in our early 20s.
For sure. I just think
that,
there's been a little too much of it in each episode. Like the little dashes of it make complete sense, but that perspective is really interesting to me, because like, oh yeah, maybe she's just like, she's not confident enough in herself to not bring her father's like perspective into it to be taken more seriously. So hopefully that confidence will be coming, because she's a great actress, and I'm excited to see more.
I think she's going to grow into her confidence as the show goes along, and I think that once she does grow into her confidence, I think that she's going to show that to her father once he shows up, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah, I think Eagle Moss, by the way, the late great Eagle Moss, is getting a lot of references in this show. The little models. The one of Voyager was really cool.
Yeah.
I want that one.
Yeah, and I think the best line of the whole show was, of course, to Seven of Nine, when she just looked and said, "You're insane." I love that line. So.
As far as Seven, I really love the moment when, like Starfleet Boy has said, I like the moment when she goes to, when Seven actually answers her door, and it turns out to be Sydney, and Sydney has that great moment where she sort of, basically says to Seven her experience, and she sort of ties it back in, and what she says to Seven. I think it's a great moment. I don't think that Seven has had her moment yet in the show, so I hope that she is more integral to the episodes moving forward. I basically think that Seven has been sort of stepped on this entire show, and I want to see her. I want to see her squash some people already.
Well, she squashed a few people in season 1. Remember, a whole
Yeah,
room full of them.
Oh yeah, that's right. She did.
Her and Worf need to team up and go on like a killing spree for good reason.
That would be a good idea.
Not just because they deserve it. Yeah.
I think Seven's done with killing. She said so in.
She says she's only gonna kill if she really what? No, she's not. She's not gonna kill just because people deserve it. But Worf,
and it's kind of like going back to that.
I was gonna say I thought it was unnecessary to replay the Worf thing from the previous episode. I know, like, yeah, Raffi's remembering now, like, but it's like, and then they make 2 beheading jokes, which is funny, but it's like they're kind of like it's like the writers are anticipating the criticism of, oh, another modern Star Trek character just loosely massacring a room full of people. It's like, yeah, we're gonna address it, and besides, it's like it's terrorism now. So I think like the stakes are so high, leave no witnesses. And besides, he already had the information on the Ferengi anyway. There was nothing more he could get out of him. But it's brutal. It's a brutal world, despite the fact that it's like the supposedly the happy-go-lucky 25th century. There's a lot of drama happening, and I just want some joy in there too. I don't want it all to be just like conflict and on the edge of your seat, like will they or won't they make it. I want them to get together and like have a moment to breathe and like just like slow down a bit. I'm not going to say which one, but I heard one of the episodes coming up is heavily expositional, and it kind of slows down a bit. I'm almost looking forward to that, to see what they do with that kind of thing. Like at some point we're going to see Deanna, Troy, and Riker together. When's that going to happen? And they're all going to be together at one point. I think maybe that might happen.
There's going to be a full episode of de-aging.
Right.
Oh God, please
Yeah.
no.
Everyone's
dude,
gonna
and
be
so
de-aged.
I just saw Ant-Man a couple of weeks ago, and the de-aging that they did on Michelle Pfeiffer and like some of her scenes where they de-aged her, it was amazing. It was like looking at her like when she was in Batman in the 90s.
Well,
And
when
then
they show
seeing this de-aging, dude, it looks like they have like Vaseline on their face, dude. I don't know, dude. Yeah, it was kind of bad.
Yeah, we need that Marvel money.
But there was like
Robert-
great VFX
We need that
in this
Marvel money.
show, you know, like the nebula like thing was very, very cool. You know,
All
like
the Starship
the
stuff is
changelings look
phenomenal.
disgusting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
special effects are
Absolutely.
incredible in the show. I thought, back to the de-aging thing, I kind of felt like that scene was a little unnecessary, but I get why it was there. But at the same time, like, we had just discovered Jean-Luc has this child. We didn't need, I don't think we needed a scene that was like Jean-Luc saying, well, now that you're a father, this is so cool. And Riker saying, well, maybe one day you'll be a father, just for the audience to think, oh man, he actually is about to be a father in the next couple of years and he won't even know it. And then
Well-
the Deanna thing really bothered me because like, that felt like just male writer vomiting, like nagging wife nonsense when
Yeah, it was very off-putting.
and it was like she is not the only parent, like why are you just at the bar hanging out? Like, what was that an agreed upon break? Otherwise she wouldn't be calling you wondering where the hell you are when you both just had this child. It was like,
Well, he does
could have been
apologize. He
better.
does apologize to her.
I also think that I needed that scene because I really liked the storyline that Michael Chabon set up for the Troy Rikers with Thaddeus Riker, and so to me it was just kind of like a nice little
that makes it
loop.
necessary. Thank you for saying that. Yep,
You're welcome.
that's right. That's right.
right. So to me it was a nice little connection and a nice little loop to show how they were
Well, they
when
wanted to-
Thad was born. Yeah.
They wanted to put that up against that moment, what he's describing, the 17-second turbolift ride. It's then mirrored in Picard when Jack gets injured, and I like the part where Riker says, "Go!" Like Riker gets it. Like he's like, "Get the hell down there."
Well, and Riker's still like very emotional about Thaddeus Riker, and I think this is stirring up a lot of feelings for him because I was gonna end the show, but let me take off the next week thing because there's some a few more points we have to say. But I think to me, the Thad Riker thing is so prevalent in this, or prominent in this episode, and I love like even Riker's just really trying to get this family to bond because he knows what it's like to lose. For it to just not have that chance at all. Like, so he's there with Jack, like, trying really hard to make Jack realize that like maybe it's not, maybe Jean-Luc is not so bad, and all these things. And like, just also I like that scene where he's like, he's giving him just like a lot of good advice that I think Jean-Luc should be giving him, but can't obviously. But he's like, yeah, it's not your fault that you happen to be chased by this crazy person who wants to like capture you and everything like that, but now that this situation is happening, like do stuff that's gonna make these people like understand like that, like do something to help, like make it worth them fighting to save your life, basically, which is a really important thing. And you see that like a lot, like like I think then you see that later when you see Jack helping with the with the medical situation, and you see how like good he is, how his bedside manner is, and like it's just like really well played and like really well done because it's very similar to Dr. Crusher. So I think there was like definitely like you could see the influence of his mother there and stuff like that, you know, and just like I think that again we could probably talk about this for hours.
Well,
and
parentage
hours
is
and hours.
it seems to be a big part of the season. So I'm wondering, will they deal with Worf's parentage?
Didn't Alexander die then?
No,
Oh.
he
Only to Worf.
yeah, only to Worf. Yeah,
There you go.
but granted, they didn't bring him up in any of the movies, and 20 years have passed since then. It's not unreasonable that he would probably bring it up if, like, maybe he gets to a point where him and Picard are talking, and it's like, oh, Picard, you have a son, and
Oh, wait, I think I have a son.
Picard might say, oh, how's Alexander? And Worf's going to be like,
Who?
It would
like,
be
"Oh,
great.
damn."
they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. But
It
if
would
they
be great
brought-
if Worf had a moment to be like, don't make the same mistake I did. Like your situation's different,
There
but
you go.
if he'll allow it, be in his life. Don't
Be a better
don't just
man.
send him away.
Be a better man than I was, right?
Well,
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you guys want to really get a point on? Because Crusher Convo is about to start, and I can't wait to go attend that on Twitter Spaces. So,
I
think
just
they
want to
might have even
emphasize.
started.
I just want to emphasize again that our legacy cast, all the cast, this was just incredibly well acted show.
Yeah,
They just
super
amazing. I think
Someone
Jonathan
said
Frakes
master
again- Yeah.
master class like level. It was really good.
Yeah, yeah. It was just. I mean, Gates McFadden, all of them. You know, the only one who I think when we talked about was the 2 seconds that we saw Marina Sirtis was a little bit odd, but everybody else.
I think she's gonna have a great. She also had a
Yeah.
really great moment in season 1, I think.
Yeah.
But I think she's gonna have more. I think they're all gonna get their wonderful moments like this. And if
Dude,
this
she
is just
couldn't
the
even-
beginning,
She couldn't
It was-
even be bothered to fly in to make her appearance. She did her appearance like in her bathroom. Like holding like a dummy baby. She was like, oh, they were like, oh, Marina, like we just need you for like 8 seconds. She was like,
And don't
okay,
try to
cool.
sound
I'm
anything like your character. Just be you, baby.
Like, I'll film it on my phone.
No, I like Marina Sirtis, but I don't want her to show up in the show just to be like, "Wah, wah, wah, wah." I want her to have a role, a significant role, a reason for being there, as opposed to the wife who's just mad at her husband.
I think that
Oh, I
scene is
like
going to be a
this.
one-off because she has said, just like Gates has said, like they would not have been part of this season if they just got that kind of tropey bullshit or just what they got, which was practically nothing in TNG in
Right.
those movies.
Miss Powell family brings up a really interesting point. Worf and Raffi have equally bad relationships with their children. If Worf has a better relationship, then he can help Raffi. That's a great point about pairing those two up because it's true. Raffi's had a pretty bad relationship with her son Gabe. So yeah.
But wants to be in their life.
Well, yeah, but and one could
Bad
argue that
relationship, yes, but slightly
I
different.
know. I saw the Deep Space Nine episode with Alexander, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, this is how they just like the two, right? There's 2 episodes, and then he's gone, and it's like, oh my god."
The dude who plays the adult Alexander it doesn't work. Like the 2 kid, well there was 2 kids that played him, but the main one, the
Brian
main kid from
Bonsall,
TNG,
and then I think it's
Yeah.
Brian Bonsall on TNG, and I forget who plays him on Deep Space Nine. If it's not Brian,
he's
Bonsall.
from this kid from Blank Check. Remember that movie Blank Check? Yeah, it's that kid. That kid. But he was the best version of Alexander because he didn't like he kind of resisted the warrior thing, but he could still like kick ass. He had it in his blood type of thing. And then when they revisit Alexander, he's just such a sorry sack, man. He's just
Yeah.
wow.
Poor Alexander. I wonder if we will see him. I don't think we will, but I wonder. It would be neat to see Alexander again. Maybe if
Yes, we need a Alexander redemption story with him and Worf. You know, I don't know.
All right, so next week, so we're gonna wrap it up. This is the time of the show where we give any final thoughts and a rating. And then please feel free to share anything you want to promote. Next week on Tuesday, by the way, there will be our sub commander who was in the audience earlier. Will be hosting a Twitter space at, I think it's like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. So check that out as well. Tonight, I'll let Stan tell you about the salon a little bit more when it's his turn. But tonight there's more conversations going on online. So it's the Crusher Convo, which should have started like 5 minutes ago. So I'm sorry if some of you guys in the audience.
No, it starts at 9.
There. Oh, is it at 9? Oh, good. We have plenty of time, but we're still ending the show. That's right. It starts at 9. I had my times mixed up. So in 1 hour, you guys can catch the Crusher Convo. I have to give this episode another 10. It's just like a bonkers good episode. Definitely see like some of the points about like this and that, but I really have a lot of faith in Terry Matalas so far. Every little nitpick or question that people have been asking, like if you wait long enough, it gets explained, and it gets explained nicely. So I think he's got a lot of other explanations coming up for us, or ideas and reasons. So a 10 out of 10 for me. PJ, why don't you go next with some final thoughts, ratings, and anything you want to share with everyone? Oh, Sub Commander's still there. Sub Commander in the chat, please tell everyone when your space is. All right, carry on, PJ.
I would give the episode 4.5 cups of chamomile tea out of 5.
Which I want to mention, by the way, Raffi's reactions to Worf being like the good cop was hilarious. Where she's like, "Oh no!" Like I feel the chamomile coming up. So 4 chamomile teas out of what?
4.5. That's almost 5. That's like
Nice.
a 9 out of 10. But I'm still waiting for the 10, the one that's like, oh my
It's
goodness.
coming. I think it's gonna come. It's gonna come. Marcelo.
Yeah, I would give this episode a 15 because it was. I really really love some of the situations that the writers put this TNG cast in. I thought the scene between Picard and Beverly in the sickbay was just amazingly done. The tension between Riker and Picard was great. The callback of Picard speaking to Riker in the bar early on, that being paid off when Picard was in the turbo lift going to the infirmary to see Jack, was amazing. Everything about this episode for me as a writer worked very very well, and I think Terry and his writing team are just they're kicking all sorts of ass for me. So it's just a really great episode.
Braxton, what about you? What did you give last week's episode? I can't remember.
A 6.
Okay.
So this is an improvement. I would give this episode a 7. It would have been a 10.
I know what you're going to say.
7.
Don't say
It would
it.
have-
Don't
it-
say it.
Dude,
Don't say
it would have been a 10 if Jack had died.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God.
No.
That scene-
Yes.
That was too
Yes.
loud.
Yes.
Please.
No.
Wow.
I'm muting.
And
I'm
then
muting
Yes.
you both.
Damn, dude.
Anyways, carry on. Carry
It
on.
would have been a 10 if Jack had died. But no, dude, I like this episode. I thought it was better than last week. I just don't like the Beverly and Picard kid stuff. Maybe possibly I'll come around. Maybe. But I thought this episode was solid.
Ken, tell us what you thought. Any final thoughts, and your rating and anything you'd like to promote.
I give this episode a 7 of 9. I mean, so this was
So it's a 7 or a 9. I'll just say it's a 9.
7 of 9. Or eight temporal weapon portals. So I just want to say that again. I love being on this show with you, Sohail. Thank you for asking
Thank
me.
you.
I also wanted to mention that Todd Stashwick has done a few videos for us at my company, the Talk About a Company. So if you go to talkabout.org and take a look, we posted the second of 3 that he did for us. He's really
right
a great
on.
guy.
Yeah, he is. He's super
his
cool.
character notwithstanding, is really a great guy. and he's done some really cool messaging for.
He's having
for
the
us.
time of his life on the cruise. Like, I love all his tweets that are coming off the cruise. And remember,
Yeah.
Todd Stashwick was on Star Trek before. He played a Romulan who was pretending to be a Vulcan on Enterprise. And I forget the name of the episode that he was on. So it's actually his return to Star Trek, which I didn't know when I first heard about him on here. So that's pretty cool. And he's just a huge nerd. Like, he's such a big nerd. I love it. So he plays D&D. He's like a DM. He's just got like
He
a
writes
huge
graphic
collection of-
novels.
He
Yeah.
writes graphic novels. So Todd Stashwick, hugely cool guy. Very nice. But very cool, Ken. Stan, so yeah, we do give a rating on the show, but it's not meant to be taken seriously. It's more by the gut. We don't like track the ratings or anything, or no one's gonna hold you to it. But if you like, you can make it nonsensical. So 1 out of 10, or whatever you want to make it, and then give us some final thoughts and anything you'd like to promote. Which especially, I hope you'll promote the salon.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. I would give this episode 9.99. Little things that I didn't love, but not that I thought was weird or that doesn't work. It was just things that I'm like, oh, I don't like that. And like, it was really good to feel that tension in those moments. Like, it felt very real and natural. Nothing came out of nowhere. There's one other thing I was going to say, but I totally lost that train of thought. I just really love the episode, and maybe I'll think of it later and tweet at you or something. But yeah, at 7:30 p.m. on Thursdays, my buddy Trevor and I host a salon Twitter space.
Specific.
Pacific
I almost
time.
said specific time.
7:30 p.m.
Pacific time.
We have a Twitter space to talk about these episodes, and then when there's not a new episode, we just do various themes. Like, we had one week where we talked about controversial decisions in Trek. Like, do you agree with Jean-Luc not utilizing Hugh to decimate the Borg? And those fun chats. Really easy topics, yes or no, definitive answers that we just come to really quickly, and no debate whatsoever because everybody knows he should have done it. I'm kidding. That wasn't even my position on the space. But yeah, that's that Twitter space. Thanks for
Dan,
having me.
I want to say that you and Trev put on great spaces, and I enjoy being a part of them. So thank you for that too.
I agree. Thanks. This is a really nice little
I
community.
remembered what I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
I love that there is, like, you can see a resolution coming with Jack and Beverly and Picard. Hopefully, I want a reconciliation. I don't want a recommitment because I think stepmom Laris would be the best part of that spinoff. Let's do it.
I love Stepmom Laris. What? I love Stepmom Laris. That's a great idea.
The sitcom that is Chateau Picard would be
Chateau Picard, the
incredible.
sitcom. Oh my gosh.
We have to do it like a '90s
Oh,
opening
goodness.
theme to that.
Laris and Beverly are going to be besties, and it's going to be great.
Someone
Love it.
Did they have those AI generated videos now? And they did one like, what if Starfleet Academy was an 80s TV series? And like, they're creepy as hell. Some of these AI generated sitcom intros with, it's weird.
It was weird.
Well, everyone, this has been a lot of fun. We went way over time, but it's all right. We usually like to keep these discussions an hour. Audience, you hung around, so thank you for sticking with us throughout all of our crazy mind, like our thoughts, I guess you could say. I don't know what I was trying to say. Mind meld. The chat was so much fun. Like, again, I'm sorry if I couldn't get to everyone's comments, but I do try to go back and look at the chat later on, so it'll be cool. The Real Housewives of LeVar. The Real Housewives of LeVar Friends. That's where we're gonna end it, Virginia. That's really nice.
Very nice.
We will
Benji.
see you guys next week for
Nice.
more Picard discussions here at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope all of you will join us. I hope Michelle will come next week, or Jesse maybe. That would be really fun as well. And I hope the audience will join us too. This weekend we are talking on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Star Trek animated series, and it's called I don't know if I'm saying this right, the Ambergris element. Burgess.
It's the episode with the water. It's not the episode with the whales. It's the
It's
episode
with the water. So yeah, check that out. And any
Yeah.
of you guys, if you want to be on that discussion, it's at Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, so it'll be noon your time, Stan. So feel free to join us for that. And yeah, so also I cannot close this out without saying, don't forget Fridays. You get to see Tex Trek. He does a really nice deep dive with like a lot of great visuals, and he has a good panel on there too. And then Sundays I go on Trek Central to talk about the episode, and I think Dom and I are going to talk about it again because Father's on vacation. I think Jack is not available, so yeah, so if you guys want to tune in on to that, to another Picard discussion, like tune into all the Picard discussions, you can do that. Anyways, folks, thank you very much. Live long and prosper, and we will see you next